So welcome and good morning. Just a reminder as always, but like maybe more so this week, just because the weather's changed quite considerably since I last saw you, probably anyway, I think it has. That often plays into kind of our capacity and what we've got the capacity for and how we feel sort of physically, especially when it comes to moving. So if you're feeling like the heat has taken it out of you and you've got capacity for a bit less today, then that's fine. You're totally welcome to just come for 20 minutes and then sneak away, or come for 20 minutes and then just lay down or chill and kind of listen and watch. It's really up to you. But try and take care. And even though we're not moving kind of what I would say, I can't remember the word, intensely, just stay hydrated, take care, because it is just jumped, hasn't it? It's crazy. It's lovely, but it's just such a big jump. Okay. So let's take a second to get comfortable in our seat, wherever you are. And I really encourage you to have a wriggle around, and to sort of don't sort of be on a time limit here. If you're needing to grab something that you think you might have forgotten and you might need cushions, something like that, go and grab them. It's always better. Be as comfy as possible. You might want to close your eyes. You might want to lean into the back of your chair for a minute. No rush to be upright and rigid and eyes open just yet. And perhaps just starting to tune in. And just tuning into a simple question, although the answer sometimes isn't simple, but the question could just be that you ask yourself, how am I? And if that's quite a broad question, which feels it, I think, for me anyway, maybe just narrow it down. So maybe how am I in my body is a first consideration. You can also split that and think of just how you're doing sort of emotionally, but only if you feel like you want to kind of probe at that. Some days we like to probe and some days we don't, and that's completely fine. But really just acknowledging that this point in your day, this might be the first kind of point so far, it is in mine, that I have just kind of sort of checked in. I've tried to really intentionally focus on sort of what's going on inside rather than what's outside of me. So just letting that be, maybe, and practicing that really tricky skill of whatever the answer is and whatever gets thrown back when we ask ourselves that question, of trying to not bat it away or quash it or minimize it, but just trying to let it be, just sort of let it float around. And for those wanting to take that focus now to your breath, just start to land your attention, your inhales, your exhales. You might want to pop your hands on your chest or belly if you like to feel the sensation of breath. That physical expanding and letting go can be really nice for some people. Maybe the place that you focus is the sound of your breath. No matter how subtle it is, there might be that sound that you can follow. Maybe you're aware of the pace or the length of your breath, or perhaps whether it feels cool or warm as the air comes in and leaves your body. And when we start to bring movements into the equation, we will try together just to stay aware of our breath as best we can. Morning, Charlie.
Alexa, shut the fuck up.
When you feel ready to start to let your body have a wriggle, and maybe if your eyes have been closed, you start to blink them open if you want to. You have a little shift around in your seat, and maybe just those little organic wriggles. You don't have to open your eyes, of course. You can go follow my cues and just peek your eyes open at the screen as and when you want to. But some people like to keep eyes open and some people prefer otherwise. We're going to start to move. Bringing your attention, I'm just realised I'm going to kick that bottle if I leave it there. That would be a disaster, wouldn't it? Bring your attention down to the soles of your feet. Give the toes a little wriggle. And we're going to just start to pick the toes up off the floor as we breathe in. And as we place them down, breathing out if we can. So the heels are staying on the floor. And we're just picking up the toes and placing them down again. And as we pick the toes up, heels stay down. There might be a sensation in the backs of the lower legs, the calves engaging, backs of the ankles. But also just that real opportunity to feel your feet on the ground. Maybe you notice like what texture you're landing on. Might be carpet, might be rug, might be lino. You might notice that one set of toes is a little happier to lift than the other. And each time your toes land down on the floor, we're welcoming this sense of grounding, of kind of knowing where we are, knowing where our feet are. And feeling what's underneath us to give us support. We're then just going to switch it. So keep the toes on the ground and pick the heels up. Inhale. As you exhale, heels press back down to the earth. Nice, everyone. So again, there might be sensation through the backs of the lower legs, but there's a different sensation perhaps. The muscles in the backs of the lower legs tend to, in this position, contract rather than when we lift the toes. There's a lengthening. And that might have a physical sensation that's different that you can identify. Allowing a stretch through the ankles maybe. And again, just sort of allowing yourself to know where your feet are landing. And really just trusting that the ground is there to support us. Good. Last one. Inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, pull them down. And just let your feet relax. Maybe shift your feet a little right to left onto the outside edges of your feet, and then maybe rock towards the arches just a couple of times. And then just going to heel toe our feet outwards so that our hips open a little bit wider than they are probably already. Just remembering that just because our hips potentially can open super wide doesn't mean we need to or we want to. So if you imagine clock face on the floor, big clock face, your feet are currently sort of maybe facing 12 o'clock. As you heel toe them out and you widen your stance with your hips and your feet, we don't really want to go anywhere. This is a general rule, but we're individual. But I kind of always will say you don't need to go past, on the left side, 10 o'clock at the very most, and on the right side, 2 o'clock at the very most. And then just heel toe them back in. So we're getting this mobilizing through the ankles, getting a little bit of movement through the knees, and then we're getting that movement through the thigh bone in the hip socket. And again, you might want to do one side of the body at a time, or even if you're doing both legs together, allowing for there to be those differences between left and right side of our body. Knowing that that's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, there's nothing attached to it, it's just like a factual thing of where our body is at today. So kind of just heel toeing them out as much as you feel safe and comfy, and then bringing them back in. Nice. It's a really nice way of just gently waking up the muscles around our hips and our pelvis. And the next time you bring your legs back in towards the middle and your feet come a little bit more straight, pointing towards the front, just hold them there. And then maybe reposition. So I feel like I just want to let my back rest for a minute because I feel like I've been sitting up for a while and it's getting a little achy. You might shift your hip, shift onto your left and your right hip a couple of times. And that might give you the opportunity, if you like it, if it feels nice, just to kind of roll the flesh of your buttocks a little bit out to the side. We don't mind if bum cheeks hang off the chair here. It's all good. Good. And knowing that that upright position can be a rested position with back support at any point. Okay, everything that we do in this class, we could easily do in this position. But don't ever feel like I could really feel it at that point. My back was just starting to, it was aching, and that I'm holding myself very stiff. Don't ever feel like you've got to sort of push through that. Let it rest as much as you need to. You could do the whole class resting against the back of your chair if you wanted to. Just making that sort of clear. All right, so let's just move up the body a little bit. We're going to come back to those thoracic spine rotations and bends that we did last week if you were here, but don't worry if you weren't. We're going to bring the arms and fold them. It's very stern. One on top of the other. They can stay close to you, so I've kind of got my arms resting against my belly here, or you can bring them away so that you're holding your arms up in space. That's obviously just going to get a little bit more tiring, so you might want to do that. If you're doing this one, you might want to rest them a little bit more than if I was here. And we're going to just try and take the point of our right elbow down towards the direction of our right thigh, and you'll see that your left elbow sort of tips up a little bit. And then you're just going to come back to the center. And we're just going to go left to right. So we're not going to focus on one side and then switch. We're going to just teeter-totter from right to left. As I tilt, I'm keeping my elbow pointing sort of near the top of my thigh, so that my spine isn't really bending forward. But you can absolutely, if you feel like you like that sort of sense of bending forward and where it changes the stretch in the back, you could take your elbow more towards your knee. So there's a side bending and there's a little bit of a fold forward. And it just changes where you might feel those muscles in the back of the body stretching a little bit. And when I say elbow towards leg, I don't mean necessarily that they have to touch. It's just sort of there moving in that direction. Nice, everyone. And with regards to any sensations of stretching in the side of the body and in the back of your body, we want it to be quite a soft sensation. So if any of the stretch sensation makes you kind of go, you know, sometimes when you grit your teeth through something, not necessarily because it's painful, but because there's a, bye Sahira, darling, but because it just creates that bit of tension. We want to just not get that far. So we want to feel like a soft stretch. You could be doing it without your arms as well. And it's simply sort of like you're tipping water out your ear. Nice. And then just let that one rest for a minute. If it's feeling good, you can come back to it in a minute. But just let yourself rest at the middle. And then just tuck your chin down in the direction of your chest, taking some care not to press it all the way down to touch your chest, but just so that you feel length through the back of your neck. And then here, just start to let your shoulders pick up towards your ears a little bit and then roll them back and down. Yeah, nice. So we've still got a good sort of orange's worth of space between chest and chin. But just letting the shoulders mobilize just a little bit. Keeping it small to start with, or maybe small for the whole duration. Good. And then let your shoulders settle and just gently bring your chin back up so your gaze is straight ahead. Good. And then now you're going to take your gaze just up slightly. Again, take that orange that you might have imagined here at the front, in between your chin and your chest, and picture it being at the back, at the top of your neck, in between the back of your head. So just to stop us kind of dropping the head back, chin is slightly lifted, and then you're going to take your shoulders, or you could just stretch the neck if you wanted to, but if you want a little bit of shoulder movement, you're going to take the shoulders up and forward this time. Just a really small circle of movement. Really nice, everyone. I'm just trying to not do anything fancy with our breathing, but just when we can, be like, oh yeah, I'm breathing. I remembered. Good. Let the shoulders rest and just drop that head back gently to a neutral position. Really nice, everyone. Great. We're going to stick with that spine and the upper back space today, just by bringing in a second the hands together at the chest, or maybe even the hands on the chest if you like, or hands on the lap, doesn't really matter, but we're going to add some different twisties in. So I'll just show you a couple of variations and then you can go pick what you like and leave behind what you don't. So maybe hands are here. The spine is tall, whether that's with or without the support of our chair. And we're going to sort of lift the chest up and over. So it's like if you imagine there was like a fence coming right down the middle, meeting you in the tummy, you're kind of going to try and take your right elbow or the right side of your body up and over that fence. And if your hands are near your chest or at palms together, you're going to try and keep them level with the middle of your chest. And then you're going to kind of come back over. With the hands on the lap, the theory is the same. So imagine that before you twist, you're sort of sitting up tall over something. And then you're taking the spine over to the left, but you can keep the hands on the leg. And then as you come back, you're sort of lifting up and over, and then coming back to the neutral position. Our neck is moving with the spine, but it's not moving further than the spine. So when I say that, I'll show you a dramatic version of. So if our spine is twisting to here as we turn, we're keeping the gaze in that sort of same direction. The neck isn't going all the way back here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. So let's just have a go at a couple on each side. Wherever their hands are is cool. And if you have got the variation of hands at chest, you can use the cue in your head, if it helps, of trying to take your opposite elbow towards your opposite thigh. Again, they're not probably going to touch. I mean, maybe they will. I don't know. And if the hands are on the lap, just the cue of taking the center of your body in to point in the direction of your opposite knee is a really nice sort of cue to try to work with. Nice. So we're building on that sense of side bending, but we're adding more of a twist, and we are adding a little bit of a hinge forward because we're taking elbow or torso towards the opposite legs. There's quite a lot going on in the spine. So take maybe a couple on each side and then just have a little rest in between. And in that period of rest, just does it feel like your body wants still support? In which case you're going to just let it all hang and lean back. Or does it want a little bit of neutral movement? And maybe that's where you take your cat and your cow.
I like the lifting movement as turning. I think that's quite pleasant.
Nice. So what we're kind of doing there is moving the spine into a twist, but from a slightly lengthened position.
Yeah.
So you're getting yourself a little bit longer before you twist. So the theory is that we've got just a bit more space in the spine.
Yes.
Sometimes twisting can feel like quite uncomfortable. I don't know. Personally, I can feel that twists are often quite uncomfortable because everything feels very squished.
Yes.
So sometimes just getting that bit of length can help it feel a little bit more spacious.
Yes. Good.
Good. So you might be just having a let it all hang out rest, or you might be cat cowing. You might do a little bit of both. If you're cat and cowing, just remembering that the chin is going to stay away from the chest with a bit of a gap. And as we open the chest and the belly and the ribs and come into that slightly arched back position, there's lots of space between the back of the head and the back of the neck, or the top of the back of the neck. I quite like, when I'm in that cat position, I quite like feeling my back push into the chair. It's quite nice. Sort of having something to push against actually feels quite pleasant. Really nice, everyone. 2 more breaths, doing whatever you're doing and trusting that what you're doing is right. Doesn't matter what anyone else on the screen is doing, doesn't matter what I was doing, just really leaning into what feels right for you. Brilliant. And the last little movement for this upper back area, we didn't do this one last week, so we'll try it all together today. And we're going to bring one hand across, like we're reaching, if somebody was sat on our left and they were reaching across to shake our hand, we're going to take that arm, so I'm going to go with the right arm, and sort of slide it across the space in front of me. And imagine like I was going to reach for someone's hand. And then let it come back, and then just let your arm fully relax, either on the arm of your chair, or maybe it just hangs gently by your side, or maybe here. And then we're going to take it left to right. So you're going to take the other arm, and in a similar movement as, I don't know if we used to do this stretch at the end of PE all the time, where you pull your arm across. Kind of that vibe, but we're not going to hold it and we're not going to push it close to the chest. We're going to just reach across, and then there'll be a point where the body wants to turn a little bit. You can let your body turn, and you might feel that across the width of your upper back and shoulder blades. And letting that arm fully relax in between. Good. If you have a lot of tension in your upper back, this might feel quite like either restricted. It might feel like, oh, I can't reach very far. That's fine. That's very normal. It might feel like you get quite a big stretch sensation across the back, and in which case you don't have to reach as far across if you don't want to. And a nice variation, just so we can find something that feels good for our body, is to take the arm less directly to the side and a little bit more sort of to the side and in front. So imagine that somebody was sat maybe at 11 o'clock waiting to shake your hand. It's a really rubbish example, but it's the one that is coming to mind. Just so you can sort of just play with where you feel that sensation. And you might notice that it does feel different if you change the angle. You might imagine that they're right in front of you and you're reaching straight directly in front. Wherever the hand goes, the shoulder blades are moving and shifting slightly differently. Nice. Let's take maybe one more on each arm if that's feeling all right, but rest before then if you need to, of course. And then just letting both arms rest, maybe just dropping the hands onto the lap or the arms of your chair, just so that your arms can be really heavy.
Excuse me just for a minute, dear.
Yes. Go, Jen. Oh, she's running away. That's fine. I thought she was excusing me because she needed to ask something. She's running away. Perfect. And then just leaning back into your chair, let the back relax. And we're going to just bring the tip of our thumb to the tip of our first finger, like we did last week. Remember that hand position. Chin mudra, mudra being the hand gesture, and chin being this position. Tip of the index pointing finger, just touching the tip of the thumb on either both hands or one hand, or both hands relaxed, and the visualization, the imagining of the thumb and the finger touching is perfectly fine. And it's a really light touch. And we're going to just take a few breaths. As we breathe in, we're going to squeeze the finger and the thumb just a little bit more together. And as we breathe out, we're going to release that pressure. So they're still touching, but they're squeezing more firmly together as we breathe in. And they're releasing the pressure between the finger and the thumb as we breathe out.
Does it matter what the other fingers are doing? Because I found one hand goes straight and one goes bent over.
Really good question. So it doesn't matter what they're doing. I find it hard for them to stay, I find it hard for them to stay relaxed. So it doesn't matter whether they're sort of more flat or whether they're curling or whether you tuck them in because that feels more comfortable. Really doesn't matter, as long as they're not doing anything that's making your hands feel sort of stiffer or more uncomfortable, then all good. But that's a really good question. And I generally rest my hands with the backs of the hands on my body. But if it's more comfortable and you feel like it's easier to rest your palms so that they're down, then that's fine. That actually feels maybe like you get the other fingers get a bit more support, but you can just play around with it. So let's maybe do 5 or 6 breaths, just at your pace, breathing in, giving the fingers a little squeeze. And then as you breathe out, releasing that squeeze a little bit. Breathing through your nose if you can, but if not, in and out through the mouth is perfectly fine. Nice, everyone. Whenever you get to those 5 or 6 breaths, or equally if you've lost count, don't stress. But just let your breath just sort of find somewhere that's a bit more natural, where you're not needing to follow it and control it. And then just release your fingers and your thumb. And it might be nice here just to take the hands and stretch the fingers out, like really trying to get like Spider-Man hands. And then just draw the hands into gentle fists, not squeezing or sort of crushing them, but just bringing the fingers in. And then fingers out and fingers in just a couple of times. So letting your hands just relax. If they felt a little stiff towards the end of those fingers. And it might be nice just to also just take a circle of the wrist gently before they rest back down, either on the lap or by the sides of your waist or body. Good. And then we're just taking stock of the whole body and scanning with, you can follow my voice, I'll just call out a few different parts of the body, and we'll take our attention down from the head, down to our feet. If I name a part of your body that today you don't want to take your focus to, skip it, ignore me. You know best. And it's simply a scan of awareness. It's a rotation of our focus around the body. You don't need to do anything when you take your focus to the head, for example, or your hands. The practice is that rotation of consciousness, that rotation of awareness, moving where we're focusing. And that's all you've got to do. So we're going to start at the head. The top of the head. The back of the head. And the face. Taking your attention to the neck. Your left and your right shoulder. The full length of your spine. From your neck down to your tailbone, right down to your seat. Your torso, chest and belly. Your pelvis and your hips. the thighs from your hips down to your knees. Lower leg. And finally your feet. Really aware of these 2 points of support underneath the feet and underneath the bum, the hips and the pelvis. Trying to let, just for the next few breaths, those areas of your body spread and soften. Be heavy, don't need to hold anything back. Just letting, for these last few moments, your breath move as softly through your body as you can. With as little effort and as little strain and as much ease as possible. And we're going to finish. If you like to take an opportunity just to bring a bit of gratitude into this moment, please do, bringing in to your mind or your imagination something you're grateful for, something, someone, somewhere. And we're just going to take one breath to finish together. We're going to breathe in, and some of us, if it's comfortable, might just pause at the top of our inhale. Not for long, we're not going to hold our breath and go purple. But just perhaps a brief pause of 1 or 2 seconds, and then letting your breath empty out on the exhale. So when you're ready, taking that breath in, maybe a short pause, and then letting it go, mouth or nose, breathing out fully and totally. Well done, everyone. If you've got your eyes, if they've been closed, just start to blink them gently. Have a wriggle around.